Hey there, everyone. It's Mr. Alviar. Snow. That's where we left off last night at the end of chapter 11. Snow. Snow is on the way. Chapter 12 of Cabin on Trouble Creek by Jean Van Leeuwen. Well, it didn't snow that night. Instead, rain and sleet ticketed against the cabin roof all night long. Daniel heard it, huddled against Will's back under their one blanket now. And when he looked out the door the next morning, he saw it on the branches of the trees, a thin, shiny glaze of ice. The sun came out by mid-morning, melting the ice, sending chunks of it down to shatter on the roof. Daniel worried one of them would go right through, but Pa had done a good job laying down the sheets of bark, so the roof held. That decided him somehow. Tomorrow, before another storm came, he was going to walk to the mill. When he told Will, his brother's face lit up. "Well, I'm going too," he said happily. "I'll take my new spear. It's just about finished, and maybe, just maybe, I can hunt some game along the way." Daniel looked at him. "No," he said. "You're going to stay here." Will's face darkened. "Pa would let me go," he argued, his chin lifting stubbornly. "It's not right that I have to stay behind just because I'm younger." "Well, it's not that," Daniel said quickly. "One of us needs to be here just in case if Pa and Ma come. If they saw an empty cabin, what would they think? Besides, we need to get out more snares. And with winter coming on, game may get scarce. And you can set more snares while I'm gone." Will glared at him, his mouth set in a straight line. But he didn't say anything anymore. Just before sunup the next morning, Daniel made a little bundle of Johnny cake and some nuts for the journey. Then, wearing his blanket coat, the empty meal sack slung over his shoulder, he set out. He felt a little pang of doubt as he walked away from the cabin. Maybe he should have let Will come too. What if he got lost, or met a bear, or wolves? Wouldn't he and Will be better off staying together? But one of them ought to be at the cabin if Pa and Ma came. If they hadn't come all these past days, these past weeks, why would they come today? But Daniel realized that he had another reason for going alone that he hadn't told Will. He had set a kind of a test for himself, going on this journey without Pa, without Solomon, without Will, without all those who weren't afraid of anything. He found the Indian trail Solomon had shown them easily enough. Daniel worried that he'd have trouble following it, but he took care to use his eyes as the Indian had shown them. Look close, and you see. The trail appeared to have been beaten down by years of travel by horses' hooves and human feet. For a good while, it followed close to the creek and then branched off. Up rises and down into hollows, then back along the creek again. He kept an eye on the sun, so this time he'd know which direction he was going. South, he decided. Mostly south. And to make sure he didn't get lost on the way back, he cut blazes into trees wherever the trail became indistinct. His blanket coat was just right, kept him warm. In fact, almost too warm as the sun rose higher in the sky. And when he judged that he'd been walking about 2 hours, Daniel sat down for a rest and a bite of Johnny cake. Leaning back against the broad trunk of a chestnut tree, chewing on his Johnny cake, he felt good. He was on his way to the mill to fetch meal for the winter. Could be he'd get to talk to another settler or two living hereabouts. He was having no trouble following the Indian trail, and except for an occasional squirrel scuttling about overhead, he hadn't seen any sign of wild varmints. The day was fine, and he was warm inside his blanket coat. But then, in an instant, everything changed. Daniel heard a noise behind him, a kind of shuffling in the leaves. And behind him, on the other side, hidden by the tree trunk, another small sound. Some creature was creeping up on him, and more than one by the sound. Wolves? Daniel grasped his knife. But what good would it do against a pack of wolves? He'd be better off climbing a tree. But not this one, though. Its trunk was too massive, its branches too high to reach. He looked around frantically for a smaller tree, just as the creatures came into sight. Well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's reading. I guess you'll have to wait till Monday to find out what's lurking in the woods. Everybody, have a great weekend. Don't forget to brush your teeth tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday night, just in case you forget. Wash your hands, wash your face, get into your pajamas, tell your parents you love them, and thank them for everything. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you Monday.